My name is Marcus Washington. I'm 67 years old, a retired HVAC technician, and I've lived here in Memphis, Tennessee my whole life. What I'm about to tell you is the story of the coldest, most calculated move I ever made. It's about betrayal, revenge, and justice that completely rewired how I see people. You know that old saying about never really knowing someone? Brother, let me tell you, that's the gospel truth. It took me 35 years of marriage to learn that lesson the hard way. And the worst part wasn't catching the betrayal. The worst part was realizing I was the only fool who never saw it coming. But let me start from the beginning, because this story needs to be told right so you can understand how a peaceful, hard-working man who never raised his voice in anger could plan revenge. So perfect, it still gives me chills when I think about it. If this story touches something in your heart, do me a favor and hit that like button. Subscribe to Barnard Stories so you don't miss the next stories I'm bringing you with complete honesty. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from and what time it is there. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? It makes this old man's day to know where you all are tuning in from, and that you're giving me your time and attention not to really understand this story. I need to take you back in time. Not too far, just enough so you can meet the man I was before that day that changed everything. The day a phone notification destroyed 35 years of my life, but also freed me from a lie that had gone on way too long. That one message that popped up on my wife Denise's phone hit me like a freight train. But I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. You know why? Because something in me clicked in that moment. And what I did with that information was something even I never knew I was capable of. I was born and raised right here in Memphis, in the Orange Mound neighborhood where everybody knew everybody's business. My daddy ran a small welding shop, and my mama took in laundry. We didn't have much, but we had enough. Food on the table, clean clothes, and a whole lot of hard work. From the time I could walk, I learned that an honest man works hard and keeps his word. That was the education I got. I remember my daddy always saying one thing that stuck with me my whole life. Marcus, son, treat people the way you want to be treated. Be a man of your word. Look people in the eye when you talk, and trust them until they prove you wrong. I carried that like scripture my whole life. Look at the irony. I trusted the wrong person way too much. We lived in a small shotgun house with a gravel yard where my mama raised chickens. The smell of strong coffee in the morning, mixed with the sound of my daddy's welding torch, was my soundtrack growing up. I'd wake up before the sun to help him in the shop. I learned to work with metal, with fire, with tools. I learned that things need to be done with care, attention, and respect. I was a quiet kid, maybe too obedient. Never gave my parents trouble. I made decent grades without studying much. Teachers liked me because I was polite and respectful. But you know what I realize now, looking back? I was too trusting. I believed everyone was like me, that they had the same pure intentions. I had a friend in school, Darnell, who was always borrowing stuff from me. Pencils, erasers, notebooks. I lent them without thinking twice. My mama would fuss. That boy's gonna leave you with nothing, Marcus. Open your eyes, son. But I didn't listen. I thought I was helping a friend until the day he took the watch my grandfather gave me and pawned it for candy money. Never saw that watch again. My mama was mad, but not at me. She was mad at herself for not warning me harder. You got a good heart, baby, and that's beautiful. But it's also dangerous. There's people out there who take advantage of kindness. I heard her, but I didn't learn. It would take many years and a lot of pain before I finally understood what she meant. When I finished high school, I didn't have the chance to go to college. Money was tight at home, and I needed to work. My daddy's back was giving out from years of bending over that welding table. So I started working at an HVAC company across town. I'd catch the early bus at 5 a.m. and come home late at night. But I loved it. I loved understanding how systems worked, fixing what was broken, hearing that unit hum back to life after hours of work. The shop owner, Mr. Patterson, was a no-nonsense but fair man. He taught me everything I know about heating and cooling systems. He'd always tell me, "Marcus, you're good at the work, but you need to learn to charge what you're worth. You do the work of 3 men and charge like 1. That ain't no way to run a business, young man." But I couldn't. I always felt like I was charging too much, that people didn't have the money. I'd look for ways to charge less, to throw in that extra repair for free. Sundays were sacred in our house. Early service at Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church. Big Sunday dinner with fried chicken, collard greens, black-eyed peas, cornbread. My mama made a sweet potato pie that would make you want to slap somebody. After dinner, Daddy would nap on the porch, and I'd go shoot hoops with my boys at the community court. Life was simple, but it was good. I didn't need much to be happy. That it was one of those Sundays after church that I met Denise. She was standing outside, talking with her girlfriends. Beautiful dark skin, bright smile, eyes that lit up when she laughed. I walked past, and our eyes met. I felt something strange in my chest. Warmth, nervousness. But I didn't have the courage to say anything. I just stood there watching her like a fool. My buddy Jerome noticed and laughed. "Man, Marcus, you looking at that girl like a lost puppy. Go talk to her." But I was too shy. I spent weeks admiring her from a distance, until one day I finally got up the nerve. It was at the church fish fry. The parking lot was full of people, tables with paper tablecloths, string lights hung between the trees, and that good smell of fried catfish in the air. There she was, beautiful in a simple yellow sundress. I walked up to her, heart pounding so hard I thought it'd jump out my chest, and said, "Good evening, miss. My name is Marcus. Would you like to dance?" She laughed, a beautiful laugh, and said, "Of course, Marcus. I'm Denise." Right there, slow dancing to Al Green under those lights, that's where it all began. The story that would last 35 years. The story I thought would last forever. But what I didn't know that night, dancing happy with that pretty girl, was that the same kindness and trust that made me lose a watch as a kid would make me lose so much more in the future. Because I was about to build my entire life on a foundation that would one day crumble. And when it crumbled, it would shake my whole world. After that night at the fish fry, Denise and I started dating. It was old school courting. I'd go to her house every Sunday after service. I'd sit in the living room while her mama watched from the kitchen doorway. We'd talk quietly, exchange looks, and when nobody was looking, I'd hold her hand. Seems quaint now, but that's how we did things back then. She lived with her parents and 3 younger siblings in a house that was nicer than mine. It had a front porch with hanging plants that her mama took care of like they were her children. Her daddy worked at the post office. He was a serious man, didn't say much. At first, he looked at me with suspicion, but over time, he saw I was hardworking, honest, and treated his daughter with respect. Denise was different from other girls. She spoke her mind. She laughed loud. She wasn't ashamed of who she was. I loved that about her. I loved how she could light up any room she walked into. When she smiled, it was like the sun came out. I felt like the luckiest man alive to have her attention. We courted for 3 good years before getting married. I wanted to save money to offer her a decent life. I kept working at Mr. Patterson's shop, taking overtime whenever I could. Every dollar left over, I put in an old coffee can I kept under my bed. Denise worked too. She was a hairstylist, doing hair for ladies in the neighborhood. She had magic hands, could braid, press, curl, anything you wanted. On Sundays when I wasn't working, we'd walk through Overton Park, get ice cream, and talk about the future. She said she wanted a house with a big backyard for barbecues and flower gardens. I said I wanted my own HVAC business someday, to be my own boss. We dreamed together, planned together, and I was absolutely sure this woman was the one I'd spend my life with. The proposal was simple. I didn't have money for some fancy ring, but I saved up for a small diamond from the jeweler downtown. I got down on one knee in her parents' living room and asked, "Denise, will you marry me?" She started crying, that happy cry, and said yes. Her mama cried too. Even her daddy, who was so serious, got tears in his eyes. We got married in a simple ceremony at the church. She looked beautiful in white, in a dress her aunt made for her. I wore a borrowed suit, but felt like a king. We had a reception in the church fellowship hall. Cake, BBQ chicken, potato salad, and sweet tea. We had a local band playing Motown hits. Everybody danced, laughed, and ate good. It was a happy day, one of those you keep in your heart forever. We rented a small duplex to start our life. 2 bedrooms, living room, kitchen, and a tiny backyard. It wasn't much, but it was ours. Denise did hair at home to help with bills, and I stayed at the HVAC shop. Life wasn't easy. Money was always tight, but we managed. We bought things on layaway, paid when we could. Everyone in the neighborhood knew us. They knew we were honest people, that we didn't owe out of bad faith. In the first years of marriage, everything was good. We got along. We talked about everything. We laughed together. Denise cooked soul food that'd make you want to cry. Her smothered pork chops, macaroni and cheese, greens with smoked turkey. I'd come home dirty and tired, but she always greeted me with a smile, dinner ready, and a kind word. Later, the kids came. First our daughter, then our son. The house got smaller, louder, but also fuller of life. I worked even harder to keep up. I took side jobs on weekends, fixing whatever came my way. Denise took care of the kids and kept doing hair when she could. We were a family, a team. At least that's what I thought, Dot. As the years went by, I finally opened my own business. Started in a rented garage, small but mine. I put up a sign, Washington Hayvik Services. Honest work, fair prices. And it was true. I did honest work. I charged fair prices. I didn't cheat anybody. Customers started coming. Word of mouth spread. The business grew slowly but surely. We finally stopped renting and bought a house with a yard Denise always wanted. I thought I'd achieved everything a man could want. Honest work, my own home, a good family, respect in the community. That Denise seemed happy too. She took care of the house, the kids, and kept doing hair for her regulars. We had a routine, an established life. We ate dinner together every night, watched the evening news, talked about our day. Sundays we still went to church and had family dinner. But you know, trusting people too much, thinking everyone thinks like you do, that's where I messed up. I looked at Denise and saw the mother of my children, my partner through all these years, the woman who'd built this life with me. It never crossed my mind she might be unhappy. Never imagined she might be looking at another man. There were times she'd comment that I worked too much, that I was always tired, that we didn't have time for each other like before. But I thought that's just how marriage was, that it was about work, responsibility, building a future for the kids. I thought romance was for movies. That companionship was what really mattered. How wrong I was. I trusted her blindly. When she said she was going to do someone's hair, I believed her. When she said she was running errands and took hours, I didn't ask questions. When she started spending more time on her phone, smiling at the screen, I thought it was just Facebook, Instagram, social media stuff I didn't understand. I never suspected. Not for a second. And you know what the worst part is? There were people who knew. People who saw and didn't tell me. After everything exploded, they came to me saying, "Oh, Marcus, we suspected, but we weren't sure. So-and-so saw her somewhere suspicious, but didn't want to get involved. Somebody else heard something, but nobody wanted to believe it. When it mattered, when I could have done something sooner, nobody had the courage to tell me the truth. So I lived for years, working, taking care of the family, trusting, believing everything was fine. Meanwhile, right under my nose, something was happening that would destroy everything I'd built. But I was too trusting, too blind to see it until that day. That cursed day when a simple message on her phone opened my eyes once and for all. And when my eyes opened, it wasn't just the truth I saw. It was my own foolishness staring back at me, mocking me, calling me a sucker. The years kept passing, and life seemed to settle into a rhythm. The kids grew up, went to college. Each followed their own path. My daughter married a good man and moved to Atlanta. My son got a job at FedEx Corporate. They'd both moved out. Suddenly, Denise and I were alone again after so many years of raising kids, paying tuition, worrying about their futures. The business was doing well, thank God. I had 3 guys working with me. Clientele was solid. Money came in steady every month. I even bought a work van to make life easier, because before I'd been using my personal truck for everything. Denise kept doing hair, but less frequently, only for a few long-time clients. She said she wanted to enjoy life more, have more free time. I retired when I hit 65. My back was complaining from so many years, crawling in attics and under houses. I sold the business to one of my workers, Terrell, who was hardworking and honest, just like I taught him. I was left with my pension and some savings. It wasn't a fortune, but enough to live comfortably. It was around that time we met Troy Daniels. He and his wife, Patricia, bought the house next door. He owned a barbecue joint, a friendly, talkative guy, the type who makes friends with everybody. His wife was quieter, more reserved, but good people. We became close neighbors, the kind who chat on the porch and have coffee at each other's houses. Troy was always coming over to borrow something. A ladder, tools, jumper cables. I lent them without hesitation. After all, that's what good neighbors do, right? He was generous too. Always brought over ribs, brisket, pulled pork from his restaurant. Said it was his way of thanking us for being good neighbors. Denise would get all excited. She'd say it was a blessing to have such good neighbors. There was a period when I started traveling more to my brother's place. He'd bought some land out in Arkansas, about 2 hours away. Raised cattle, had a fishing pond. He was always inviting me to spend a few days out there, help with a few things, have some beers, and talk about life. I'd go and stay a week, maybe 10 days. I always thought everything was fine at home, that Denise was there quietly taking care of her business. She never complained about my trips. In fact, she seemed almost cheerful when I told her I was going to Arkansas. Go ahead, baby. You need to relax. Spend time with your brother, she'd say. I'll be fine here. I got things to keep me busy. I thought that was normal. Thought she was being understanding, giving me my space. But the truth is, she was happy to see me go. I started noticing some strange things, but at the time, I didn't think much of it. Denise had bought new clothes. She was doing her makeup, wearing perfume, just to go to the grocery store. I even commented, "Well, baby, you getting fancy now?" She laughed and said, "A woman's got to take care of herself at any age, Marcus." I agreed. Even thought it was nice she was taking care of herself. She'd also bought a new smartphone, one of those fancy ones. I didn't understand them. She was always on that thing, texting, laughing to herself. When I'd ask who she was talking to, she'd say it was her girlfriends, her hair clients, our daughter. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? There was one day I came back early from Arkansas. The trip had been shorter than expected. When I walked in, Denise was in the bedroom, frantically straightening up, looking all nervous. "You're back already?" she said, startled. Seemed odd, but then she made an excuse. Said she'd overslept and was embarrassed. I caught her still cleaning up. I laughed, kissed her on the forehead, and went to take a shower. Troy also became more present in our lives. He'd show up often, bring food, stay chatting on the porch, have a beer with me in the late afternoon. Denise would make snacks, sit with us, laugh at his jokes. I thought it was great having a friend nearby, someone to talk to, pass the time with. Never crossed my mind there was anything wrong. Patricia, his wife, was good people too, but she was always complaining that Troy worked too much at the restaurant, came home late, was always tired. Denise would comfort her. She'd say men are just like that. You have to cut them some slack. The two became friends. They'd have coffee together, talk about things. Everything seemed normal, friendly. But there was one time I came home unexpectedly and saw Troy leaving through our back gate. When I asked Denise what he was doing here, she said he'd dropped off some ribs I'd asked for, that he came in the front, but left through the back because the front gate was stuck. Made sense. I didn't ask more questions. But now, looking back, I see how obvious it all was. How blind I was. My daily routine was simple. I'd wake up early, have my coffee and toast, read the paper, watch some TV, run errands around town. Come home for lunch. Denise always had food ready. House was always clean, everything in order. At night, we'd watch the news, talk a little, go to bed. Weekends, we'd visit the kids, or they'd come visit us. A normal life, no drama, no excitement. I was satisfied with that. Thought I'd reached the good stage of life where you can rest a little. Enjoy what you built. Watch the grandkids grow. I never imagined that while I was there. Peaceful, trusting, happy with my quiet little life. Something was happening right under my nose. Something that would destroy all that peace I valued so much. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. and Denise wasn't in bed. I went looking and found her in the living room on her phone, that blue light lighting up her face. When she saw me, she jumped and quickly put the phone down. Couldn't sleep. Came to get some water, she said. I went back to bed, rolled over, fell back asleep. Didn't suspect a thing. That's how naive I was. Months passed, and I continued in my little bubble, ignoring the signs, not questioning the weird things, not opening my eyes. Too much trust, too much kindness, too much innocence. Everything my mama warned me about when I was a boy. Everything I'd ignored my whole life was about to bite me hard. Because the truth is, it doesn't matter how long you live with someone. Doesn't matter how many years you share the same bed, the same house, the same life. Sometimes the person you think you know better than anyone is the one hiding the biggest secrets. And when those secrets come out, they don't come alone. They bring pain, disappointment, and a rage you never knew you had in you. But I still didn't know any of that yet. I was still living in my bubble, thinking everything was fine, that my marriage was solid, that my wife was faithful. Until one ordinary night, in a completely normal situation, everything suddenly collapsed. And when it collapsed, I had to make a decision. Explode with rage or act with cold calculation. The decision I made in that moment would define the rest of my story. The night that changed Everything started like any other. It was a Thursday in late September. The weather was cooling down. That nice Memphis fall weather. I'd spent the day running errands, paying bills, stopping by the barber shop for a trim and some good conversation. Got home in the late afternoon, tired, wanting a hot shower and a quiet dinner. Denise was in the kitchen making supper. The smell of smothered chicken with gravy filled the house when I opened the door. "Almost ready, baby," she called from the kitchen. "Go take your shower. Food'll be on the table when you get out." I was grateful to have a wife who took such good care of me. Or so I thought. When I got out of the shower, the table was set. Rice, green beans, the smothered chicken, cornbread, a little cucumber salad. Simple, good. We sat down to eat, talking about nothing special. She mentioned our daughter had called, that our grandson had made honor roll. I talked about running into old friends at the barber shop, about gas prices going up again. Just regular old couple conversation. Nothing emotional, Doc. After dinner, she went to wash dishes, and I went to the living room to watch the evening news. Sat on the couch, turned on the TV, stayed there watching the day's headlines. A little later, Denise appeared, drying her hands on a dish towel. "I'm gonna take a bath," she said, and left her phone on the coffee table near me as she headed to the bedroom. I was sitting there watching TV when the phone lit up with a notification. It wasn't my habit to look at other people's phones, not even hers, but the screen was right there in front of me, glowing. Impossible not to see Dot, and what I saw on that screen made my blood run cold. It was a text message. It read, "I miss your touch, baby." The contact name, Tina's Hair Supply. My heart dropped. I felt that awful sensation in my chest, that tightness, that heat rising to my face. Tina's Hair Supply. What kind of hair supply store sends messages saying, "I miss your touch, baby"? I grabbed the phone with a shaking hand. The message was right there, clear as day. And it wasn't the first. There were other messages, but she'd deleted most of them. Only that last one remained. I heard the shower running in the bathroom. Denise was bathing. Would take her at least 15 minutes. My head started spinning. I thought 1,000 things at once. Thought about bursting into that bathroom and throwing the phone in her face. Thought about yelling, about breaking something, about making a scene. But I didn't do any of that. Something inside me shifted in that moment. A coldness I'd never felt before took over. I looked at that message and thought, no, I'm not going to explode. I'm not going to make a scene. I'm going to find out who this person is. And I'm going to make both of them pay in a way they'll never forget. I sat there with the phone in my hand, heart pounding, mind racing. Thought about replying to that message. Thought about pretending to be her. And that's exactly what I did. With trembling fingers but cold determination, I typed, "Come over tonight at 8. Marcus is at his brother's place in Arkansas." I sent the message and stared at the screen, waiting. Less than 2 minutes passed before the reply came. "I'll bring the wine, baby." My stomach turned. Wine, baby, all that intimacy. How many times had this happened? How many times had this man come into my house, drank wine with my wife, slept in my bed while I was away trusting, working, living my foolish little life? I deleted the messages I'd sent. Left the phone exactly where it was, on the coffee table. Stood up, went to the kitchen, got a glass of water. My hands were still shaking, but my mind was crystal clear. I had to act fast, think carefully. I had only a few hours to set my trap. When Denise came out of the bathroom, all fresh, smelling good, wearing her robe, I was sitting on the couch pretending to watch TV like nothing happened. She grabbed her phone, looked at the screen, and I saw her face change. She went pale, swallowed hard, but recovered quickly. "Everything okay?" I asked, looking at her with the most innocent expression I could manage. "Everything's fine," she replied, forcing a smile. "Why wouldn't it be?" I let her sit down on the couch next to me. Let a few minutes pass watching the game show she liked. Then, right in the middle of the show, casually I said, "Oh, baby, I forgot to tell you. My brother called today. Wants me to come out to Arkansas early tomorrow to help with some fence repair. Gonna have to stay the night. Be back day after tomorrow." I watched her face. Her eyes lit up. She tried to hide it, but I saw it clear as day. "Oh, really? How long you gonna be gone?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Just overnight. Leaving first thing in the morning. Be back day after tomorrow." She nodded, pretending to be concerned. "All right, baby. Be careful on those country roads." But I swear, I saw a little smile at the corner of her mouth. That night, lying next to her in bed, I didn't sleep 1 minute. I stared at the ceiling, listening to her breathing beside me, thinking about everything. 35 years of marriage. 35 years I believed in this woman, trusted her, respected her, cared for her. And she was betraying me, lying, using my trust against me. Got the rage came in waves. But I held it in. Couldn't show it. Had to stay calm, act cold. Because I was going to make those two pay. But I was going to do it my way. Not with violence. Not with a public scandal. With the truth. By showing them I knew. That I'd always known. That I'd planned the whole thing. The next morning I got up early, had my coffee, packed a duffel bag with some clothes, and went through the whole performance. Denise was strangely affectionate. Made me extra eggs and bacon. Asked if I was taking snacks for the road, if I had enough cash. Too much care, too much affection. All fake, all lies. "You sure you'll be all right here by yourself?" I asked at the door before leaving. She smiled that sweet smile. "Of course I will, baby. I'm going to use the time to deep clean the house, organize the closets. You go on now. Don't worry about me." I kissed her on the forehead, grabbed my bag, got in my truck, and pretended to leave. Drove around the corner, circled the block, and parked the truck 4 houses down on the opposite side of the street where she couldn't see it from any window. Turned off the engine and sat there waiting, watching. It was 8:30 in the morning. I had the whole day ahead of me. And at 8 o'clock that night, I was going to find out exactly who owned that phone number. Who the man was who had the nerve to walk into my house, sleep in my bed, and betray my trust. The hours crawled by. I stayed in that truck, eating the crackers and jerky I'd brought, drinking bottled water, thinking. Thought about my whole life. Thought about what a fool I'd been. Thought about how many times she'd lied straight to my face, and I'd believed every word. Thought about all those trips to Arkansas. All those times I'd left trusting, leaving my wife alone, thinking everything was good at home. My phone rang a few times. My brother checking in, a friend inviting me to play dominoes at the community center. I let them all go to voicemail. I couldn't talk to anybody right now. My mind was focused on one thing only. Around noon, I saw Denise come out the front door to get the mail. She was wearing a nice outfit, had her hair done up, makeup on, getting pretty for company. My stomach turned. She went back inside, and I kept waiting. The afternoon felt like it lasted forever. I watched neighbors come and go, watched kids get off the school bus, watched the mailman make his rounds. My back was aching from sitting so long, but I didn't move. Couldn't risk her seeing me dot when the clock in my truck hit 7 p.m. I got out, walked down the street, cut through the alley behind the houses, and entered my yard through the back gate. Moved quiet as a cat burglar in my own home. Went straight to the utility closet, that small room off the kitchen, where I kept my tools and equipment. Left the door cracked open, just enough to see into the living room. 7:45 p.m. My heart was racing, but my mind was ice-cold. At exactly 8 o'clock, I heard the doorbell. Heard Denise's footsteps going to the door. Quick, excited steps. Heard the door open. And then I heard the voice. A voice I knew very well. A voice that made my blood boil and freeze at the same time. It was Troy Daniels. My neighbor. My friend. The man I'd welcomed into my home, shared beers with, lent tools to. The man I'd treated like family was now walking into my living room with a bottle of red wine and roses for my wife. Watched everything through that crack in the door. Troy walked in like he owned the place, like he'd done this 100 times before. He was dressed nice, fresh haircut, clean button-down shirt, smelling like cologne, carrying that wine and those flowers. Flowers for my wife in my house with my money, paying the electric bill that lit that room. Denise closed the door and threw herself into his arms. I saw it with my own eyes. Saw my wife embrace that man and kiss him on the mouth with passion, the way she hadn't kissed me in years. I felt pain in my chest, so sharp I thought I might be having a heart attack right there. But I took a deep breath, clenched my fists, and kept watching. Kept gathering evidence with my eyes. I thought you weren't going to answer my text, he said, pulling her close. Got worried you changed your mind. She laughed. That laugh I knew so well. How could I change my mind, baby? I've been counting the hours. That old man finally gave me a break. That old man? She called me that old man. Like I was just an inconvenience. An obstacle in her life. 35 years reduced to 2 dismissive words. The rage rose in my throat, but I swallowed it down. Wasn't time yet. They moved to living room, sat on my couch. Troy opened the wine, poured 2 glasses, and they toasted. To us, he said. To finally having time together, she replied. They drank, laughed, kissed again. And I stood there just feet away, watching my world burn, feeling every brick of the life I'd built crumble to dust. I waited. Wanted them comfortable, relaxed, completely sure they were alone. Wanted the shock to hit maximum when I appeared. And when I felt the timing was perfect, I took one last deep breath, pushed that door open, and stepped into the living room. Evening, Troy, I said in the calmest voice I could manage. The silence that dropped in that room was like death itself. Denise jumped off that couch so fast she knocked over her wine glass. It shattered on the floor, red wine spreading like blood on the hardwood. Her face went white, snow white, eyes wide with pure terror, mouth hanging open, unable to form words. Troy froze with his glass halfway to his mouth, staring at me like he was seeing a ghost rise from the grave. Marcus, he stammered, I just came. I came to bring some brisket from the restaurant. His voice came out shaky, weak, pathetic. I almost laughed at how stupid the excuse was. Brisket, I repeated slowly, tasting every word. Brisket with wine and roses. Must be some premium delivery service you're running, Troy. That's some new special you got going? Denise started crying, that desperate crying. Marcus, baby, I can explain. It's not what it looks like. Please. She moved toward me with her hands out, begging. I stepped back. Don't touch me, I said. And something in my voice, something in my eyes must have terrified her, because she stopped dead. Troy tried to stand up, tried to move toward the door. I moved faster, got to the front door, locked it, and put the key in my pocket. Nobody's leaving this house until I get answers, I said. My voice was cold, controlled, deadly even to my own ears. You two are going to sit down and tell me everything. How long has this been going on? How long what? Denise tried playing dumb. I grabbed her phone off the coffee table. I knew her passcode. She'd never hidden it from me. Pulled up those messages and shoved the screen in their faces. How long have you been betraying me? How many times has this man been in my house? How many times did you sleep in my bed? Her crying got louder. Troy was sweating, looking at the door, calculating if he could get past me. But he knew he couldn't. I was between him and the exit. And though I was older, I was still strong. Still had the arms of a man who'd worked with his hands his whole life. Talk. I shouted. First time I'd raised my voice. Talk before I lose what's left of my mind. Denise flinched, slid down to sit on the floor, hugged her knees. 2 years, she whispered. We've been seeing each other for 2 years. 2 years. 2 entire years of lies. I did the math quick in my head. 2 years ago was when I started going to Arkansas more often. 2 years ago, she started dressing up more, buying new clothes. 2 years of betrayal. 2 years of being played for a fool. 2 years of sleeping next to a woman who was thinking about someone else. And you? I turned to Troy. Does Patricia know? Does your wife know you spend your days at that restaurant and your nights with the neighbor's wife? He didn't answer, just stared at the floor like a coward. Answer me. I yelled again. She doesn't know anything, he mumbled. Please, Marcus, don't tell her. For the love of God, she doesn't deserve to go through this. The hypocrisy made me sick. She doesn't deserve to suffer, I said. But I do? Me? The man who worked his whole life? Who built this house? Who trusted both of you? I deserve to be betrayed in my own home? That's when I had the idea. The best idea I've ever had. Pulled out my phone, found Patricia's number in my contacts. I had it because she'd call me sometimes when she needed help, and Troy wasn't around. I dialed. Hello, Patricia? This is Marcus, your neighbor. Can you come to my house right now? It's urgent. Your husband is here, and he needs you bad. I hung up before she could ask questions. Troy went white as a sheet. You didn't, he said, voice cracking. You didn't call my wife. I smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the bitter smile of a man who'd found his revenge. Yes, I did. And she be here in 5 minutes. Hope you got a good explanation ready. Those 5 minutes were the longest of my life. Denise kept crying on the floor, begging forgiveness, saying it was a mistake. She didn't mean to hurt me. Troy sat on that couch with his head in his hands, shaking. I stood with my arms crossed, waiting. The doorbell rang. I went to the door, opened it. Patricia stood there looking worried. Marcus, what's wrong? Is Troy okay? I stepped aside. Come in, Patricia. Your husband's fine. Real fine. He was just here, having wine with my wife. She walked into the living room and saw the whole scene. Troy on the couch. The wine bottle on the table. The glasses. The roses. Denise on the floor, makeup running, crying. Broken glass still scattered around. Patricia looked at her husband, and at me, then at Denise. Her brain took a few seconds to process what she was seeing. Troy, she said slowly, her voice shaking. What are you doing here? He couldn't answer, couldn't look her in the eye. It was Denise who spoke through her sobs. Patricia, I'm so sorry. We didn't want you to find out like this. And that's when Patricia's world collapsed too. I watched her face change, watched the pain take over, watched tears start falling. How long? She asked, and her voice broke. How long have you been doing this behind my back? Troy stayed silent. 2 years, I answered for him. 2 years they've been sneaking around. Here in my house when I was gone. Probably other places too. Patricia leaned against the wall. Thought she might faint, but she didn't. She looked at her husband with a hatred I'd never seen in that sweet, quiet woman. "Get up right now and come with me," she said with impressive strength. "You're gonna pack your things, and you're leaving my house tonight. I never want to see you again." Troy tried to speak, but she held up her hand. Don't you dare try to explain. 2 years, Troy. 2 years you looked me in the eye every day and lied. 2 years you made a fool of me." She turned to Denise. "And you? I thought you were my friend. You sat in my house drinking coffee, listening to me complain about my marriage. Now I know why my husband was always working late. I opened the front door wide. 'Y'all can leave now,' I said. 'Get out of my house and don't ever come back.'" Troy stood up, walked past me without looking up, stepped out into the street with Patricia right behind him. I heard her yelling at him on the sidewalk. Heard neighbors opening their doors to see what was happening. Good. Let everybody see. Let the whole neighborhood know what kind of people they were. Denise was still on the living room floor. "Marcus, please," she begged. "Forgive me. It was a mistake. I love you. We can start over. Please, think about our children, our grandchildren." I looked at that woman I'd loved my whole life and felt nothing. No anger, no love, no pity. Just a massive emptiness. "You threw away 35 years, I said slowly. 35 years of marriage, trust, building a life together. You threw it all away for a married man who owns a barbecue joint. You know what the worst part is? You did it in my bed, in my house, with my money paying the bills. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is?" She didn't answer, just cried harder. "Tomorrow morning I'm going to see a lawyer about divorce," I continued. "You can stay in this house for now, until we sort things out legally. But I'm sleeping in the guest room, and I don't want to exchange another word with you that isn't about the separation." I turned and walked to the guest room. Left her there crying alone, surrounded by broken glass and the pieces of the marriage she'd destroyed. The days following that night were the hardest of my life. I slept in the guest room. Got up early, left before Denise woke up, came back late at night. We didn't talk, didn't look at each other. The house that was once full of life, conversation, and good cooking became a silent tomb where two strangers shared the same roof without acknowledging each other. That silence was worse than any shouting. It was heavy, loaded with everything that could never be said again. I'd pass her in the kitchen and look away. She tried talking to me a few times, tried starting conversations, but I shut her down instantly. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to hear. The neighborhood found out within hours. Small communities are like that. News travels faster than lightning. By the next day, everybody was talking. At the grocery store, at the gas station, at church. I heard the whispers when I walked down the street. Saw people look away, pretending they didn't see me. Some came up to pat me on the shoulder with that look of pity, not knowing what to say. Others were entertained, laughing quietly, making jokes they thought I couldn't hear. But most were just happy to have fresh gossip. The worst was running into people who didn't know whether to acknowledge me or pretend they didn't see me. Mr. Jenkins, the lawyer, stopped me outside the post office. "Marcus, I heard what happened. Tough situation, brother. If you need to talk, my door is open." I thanked him, but didn't want to talk to anyone. I wanted to disappear, turn to dust, vanish from that neighborhood where everyone knew my shame. I went to see Mr. Jenkins first thing Monday morning. His office was in a small building downtown, right off Beale Street. Walking in there to file for divorce after 35 years felt surreal, like it was happening to somebody else. I told him everything straight, no sugarcoating. He listened quietly, taking notes. When I finished, he took off his glasses, rubbed his face, and said, "Marcus, I've been practicing law for 30 years. Seen a lot of infidelity cases, a lot of marriages end. But I never stopped being amazed by people's capacity to hurt the ones who trust them most. I'm real sorry for what you're going through." The divorce moved fast. Faster than I expected. Denise didn't fight anything. Accepted every condition I proposed. Didn't ask for alimony. Didn't fight for assets. I think the guilt weighed so heavy she didn't have the courage to demand anything. Or maybe she just wanted it over so she could live her new life with Troy. We split everything 50-50 like the law requires. She kept the house. I didn't want to step foot in that place again. Didn't want to sleep in that bed where she'd betrayed me. I took my share from the business sale, took my tools, my clothes, some furniture that was mine from before marriage, and I left. It felt liberating to leave that house. To leave behind all those memories now stained and poisoned by betrayal. While I was rebuilding, Troy's life was falling apart brick by brick. Patricia really did kick him out that same night. Didn't even give him time to pack properly. He had to rent a cheap room above a liquor store near his restaurant. One room, no windows, shared bathroom. From homeowner to room renter, overnight. Business at his barbecue joint dropped bad. Half of Memphis seemed to be on Patricia's side and stopped eating there. The women especially started a silent boycott. They'd rather drive across town to another spot than give money to that man. The other half, who still only went to be nosy, to stare at him with judging eyes. To feed the gossip mill. I rented a small apartment on the other side of town. Second floor of a quiet building, 2 bedrooms, living room, kitchen, a little balcony facing the street. Started building a new life slowly, one piece at a time. Bought simple furniture from thrift stores. Arranged things my way without having to ask permission. It felt strange living alone after so many years sharing space. Strange, but also good. I woke when I wanted. Ate what I wanted. Watched what I wanted on TV. Didn't have to explain myself. Didn't have to wonder if every word was a lie. Didn't have to pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. Just me, my clear conscience, and my chosen peace. The kids were furious with their mother when they found out. My daughter cried for days. Said she couldn't believe her mama was capable of that she'd lost all respect for her. My son was so angry, he went months without speaking to Denise. Wouldn't answer calls, wouldn't reply to texts. They supported me, though. Came to visit at the new apartment, helped me set things up, took me out to eat. Knowing the kids were on my side, lifted some of the weight off my chest. And you know what happened? 1 month after that awful night, Troy and Denise made their relationship public. Started walking around Memphis together, holding hands, going to movies, getting dinner at restaurants, shameless, not caring what people thought, not respecting the mourning of destroyed marriages. Denise told anyone who'd listen it was true love, that they'd tried to resist but couldn't, that the heart wants what it wants, that love isn't a choice. True love. What a joke. True love isn't built on lies and betrayal. True love doesn't hide in borrowed beds while spouses are away trusting. But the story didn't end there. Because betrayal is like rust. It corrodes everything. It spreads. It contaminates. It destroys from the inside out. 4 months after Troy and Denise started living together, he'd moved into my old house, sleeping in my old bed. The bomb dropped again. Troy was seen leaving a cheap motel out on Highway 51 with another woman. A younger woman with bright red hair who worked at his restaurant. Somebody took a picture. There's always somebody with a phone at the right moment. That picture spread through Memphis like wildfire. Reached Denise's eyes within hours. The same pain she'd caused me was now knocking on her door. And how did she react? She showed up at my apartment one Sunday morning, pounding on the door desperately, eyes swollen from crying, saying she'd been betrayed. Couldn't believe Troy was capable of doing that to her, that she'd left everything for him. I opened the door, looked at that broken woman, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no pity, just emptiness. What did you expect? I asked, standing in the doorway without inviting her in. You expected a man who betrayed his wife with you to be faithful to you? You expected a man who walked into my house behind my back, who lied to me for 2 years, who slept in my bed while I was trusting him, to be honest with you? She had no answer, just cried, begging for a shoulder to cry on, begging for comfort, asking me to understand her pain. You know how much it hurts to be betrayed, Marcus, she said through sobs. You know how much it hurts? Please, just talk to me. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, I know exactly how much it hurts, Denise. I know real well. But the difference is, I didn't deserve it. You do. And I closed the door in her face. Troy and Denise broke up right after that. She was left alone in that big house full of bitter memories. No husband, no lover, no dignity. She tried going back to doing hair, but her old clients didn't want her anymore. The reputation of being a homewrecker had spread like wildfire. And women in Memphis don't forgive those things easily. Me. I was finding peace I hadn't felt in years, maybe decades. I woke up early without an alarm, drank my coffee on the balcony, watching the sunrise, read my paper in peace without rushing. Went to the community center to play dominoes with friends. Had a cold beer in the afternoon. Life was simple again, honest again, clean again. It was one of those quiet afternoons at the park that I met Florence. An elegant woman, salt and pepper hair, pulled back in a neat bun, kind brown eyes, a genuine smile that lit up her whole face. She was sitting on a bench under a tree, reading a book with a blue cover. I sat on the next bench over. We started talking about small things. The weather, the park, the birds singing. Discovered she'd lost her husband to diabetes 3 years back. That it had been a long, happy marriage. That she had 2 grown sons, beautiful grandkids who visited every week. She was rebuilding her life alone, too, learning to be just herself again. After so many years of being half of a couple, we connected over that shared pain of starting over. That feeling of rediscovering who we were without someone next to us. Started meeting more often. Talked for hours about everything. Life, loss, our kids, second chances. She was different from Denise in every way. Transparent, honest, spoke her mind directly. No hidden agenda, didn't lie, didn't hide things. With her, I could be myself without fear of being played for a fool again. Slowly, without rushing, without pressure, we grew closer. It wasn't that teenage kind of love that makes your heart race and your head spin. It was a quiet, mature love. The love of people who've lived a lot, suffered a lot, and know the true value of honesty. A love built on real trust, earned day by day. Not that blind, foolish trust I had before. Today, looking back, I see that terrible night was actually liberation disguised as tragedy. It freed me from a comfortable lie, from false security, from a marriage that was rotten inside, but I was too blind to see it. It hurt like nothing ever hurt in my life. But pain passes, just like everything passes. What remained was a lesson I'll carry until my last breath. Today, sitting here on my balcony with Florence next to me, drinking coffee and talking about the grandkids, I feel peace. Real peace. The kind that comes from within. That doesn't depend on anyone else. It's the peace of someone with a clean conscience, who owes nothing to nobody, who has no secrets hidden under the pillow. Denise still lives alone in that house. The kids visit occasionally, more out of duty than desire. Troy went crawling back to Patricia on his knees begging forgiveness. But she wanted nothing to do with him. She rebuilt her life too. She's dating a good man now, a retired teacher who treats her with the respect she always deserved. The lesson I learned from all this is simple but painful. Trust is not a blank check you give people. Trust is built every day, confirmed by actions, proven by transparency. I trusted blindly and paid the price. But today I trust again, just differently. With my eyes wide open, with my mind clear, with my heart protected but not closed. 35 years of marriage, and she threw it all away for a barbecue restaurant owner. I replied to that text pretending to be her, and the lover came running like a dog to a bone. The look on Denise's face when she saw me in that living room is something I'll never forget. White as a ghost, eyes wide with pure terror. I didn't need to hit her. Didn't need to yell more than necessary. The truth exposed in front of everyone hurt more than any physical blow ever could. Troy lost his wife, lost respect, lost his business. Denise lost me and lost her lover shortly after. In the end, they were together 4 miserable months until betrayal repeated itself. Because betrayal doesn't turn into love. Betrayal turns into punishment, turns into karma, turns into the hell each person builds with their own hands. Today, my conscience is clear, and I sleep peacefully with a light heart. He, however, sleeps alone, burdened by his conscience and the weight of his actions. And I've learned that starting over isn't something to be ashamed of. Lying is shameful. Pretending everything is fine. Accepting being treated like a fool. Starting over takes courage. It means looking ahead and saying, I deserve better. I'm truly happy that you're here and that I can share my story with you. If you liked it, show me by hitting the like button and subscribing to Barnard Stories. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is there. I'm curious to know where all you good people are watching from. If you want to support me more, you can send a small donation. I share new life stories for you every day. Now, my 2 most popular stories will appear on your screen, so you can choose what to watch next.